Mr. Prendergast, I think we're all on the same page here that something needs to be done about Mr. Harrison.
You're going to take your glasses off and then spit directly into your eyes.
I'm going to just do a quiet little sanity check on this side of the room.
Your compatriot killed a Kelpie. He's 9.
I find it hard to be grateful for your efforts to make me understand this world.
Just respectfully, I'm not sure we should have the child try to kill Mr. Parks.
Spitz, would you like to join us in trapping and potentially angering an extremely powerful evil wizard?
The sound of the coin startles you enough that you just put all of your desire to not have Spitz be taken and not have your livelihood wrecked just directly into the circle. And as Marianne is standing there, it just blazes with light.
And I mean this with my whole chest. Be as pedantic as you possibly can.
I can do that.
Mr. Parks, respectfully takes his hat off and says, hello, I've come for a reading.
Please, take a seat.
Please do not misunderstand me. I am the authority in this town, and he sort of, he stands up to like loom over you, and I resent the implication that that the fact is otherwise, and I bid you good day. And he turns, walks around, runs face first into the force field, just recoils, like holding his nose. How amusing. Will said that, and he's bleeding profusely from the nose. And he's got his handkerchief. It still has like little spit stains on it. He turns it inside out and sort of like holds it over his nose and says, Will had warned me that you were attempting something, and I thought, no, surely she could not be that idiotic. Rest assured, I will forgive your misapprehensions. I will be leaving the circle, and going to speak to your young acquaintance. He starts heading toward the counter.
We suggest you sit down, Mr. Park. You are not getting out of here until we say you can.
He says, we tried. Clear as this negotiation is to fail, you have been warned of the consequences. And he starts to glow brighter and brighter, and you can see his attempt is to burn down the shop around him and yourself. And
He's big and full of fire.
Now.
He's big and full of fire.
Spitz is fully just yelling, arms up, ready.
I'll
You have
hoist
one
Spitz
job.
by under the shoulders and lift them up enough that I can make eye contact with these two over the thing and be like,
give us a spot hidden.
I make that with a hard one.
I don't make that.
I
guess I'm paying attention to him.
You think the trap's really working.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very low chance that this actually worked, but maybe a 1 in 100, in fact, that this trap, but it seems to be containing the fire, so it's really more of you can kind of see the outlines of the trap as fire starts to lick and surround his clothes, and the table inside of this trap is fully burned. You see the tarot cards curling and crisping. And so I guess you get these back, but not these.
Does it look like...
interesting.
Does it look like the spell is gonna be able to hold
So
for
Marianne
indefinitely?
This is a fairly powerful trap. You think maybe not indefinitely, but
Mhm.
certainly some amount of time.
Yeah, okay. So, look, Spitz has been trying real hard to get Phineas to throw them.
All right, hold on. Seeing that this is not burning down the shop in the way that we were in thinking it might, Mr. Park, we understand that you may be feeling a little bit in distress right now, but it seems that...
Distress!
So much for the element of surprise.
Righteous indignation? Perhaps I am Furious. Yes, that is the word. Furious.
Right, but try as you might, you are not going to destroy us right now. So you have two options. Either just stay here brooding for forever, or we can talk.
He's strongly considering the brooding forever option.
All right, or we have our young associate here wielding something you might not be too happy to see.
He sort of crouches down and says, is Spitz still on the counter, or have you jumped down?
Spitz is fully just like perched atop the counter.
I think I like lifted Spitz to maybe throw them, and then like upon trying to bring them back down, Spitz just stayed on the counter, like
Fully like perched on the counter, just mean mugging him.
So he sort of like crouches down just to be at your eye level. And he says, "Child, you are the most ferocious being I have seen. Do you wish for adventure?"
I mean,
you don't have to answer that.
If you jump down and use your wrench to break this circle, I will promise you the adventure of a lifetime, several lifetimes, all the horses you could want.
heard a lot of promises from evil wizards before.
This one, I swear upon everything that I am, the adventure of a lifetime, all the horses I can get you.
I've seen horses.
What haven't you seen?
Lots of shit. Well, Spitz holds the coin up in front of it. This is new.
Says, this is a taste of what is yet to come. The world cannot be imagined. It is a frontier to rival that of the West, here in every city that you can find.
There's some murmurings behind the counter about how the Factory Act of 1877 rendered contracts with minors non-legally binding. But I don't think anyone hears that. I just need it to be put out into the aether in case that
Oh, you can hear this. Like, this is fully within your view.
Oh,
Do we hear his
Oh,
murmuring?
Phineas, yes.
Great, that's a hard listen.
Yeah, you...
What was that?
I haven't been having a particularly hard time finding the likes of you guys wherever I go.
Well, I mean, that's to be expected. We're sort of everywhere. That's why there's adventure everywhere.
Yeah, so it kind of seems like I don't need you to have it.
The wisdom of a child, but what adventure would you want? We could make all of your dreams come true.
Phineas.
The sound of your voice is very obnoxious. Can I bonk him?
Give me a second.
Spitz, your legal counsel, I don't involve physical altercation. I also don't think we should enter the salt circle. I think outside of the salt circle, far safer than inside of the salt circle. I'm going to keep letting you do your thing. I promise. I'm going to stay right back here. You're doing great.
I'm gonna sidebar with Marion real quick.
What if I throw one of the wrenches? Does that count as crossing the circle?
How much do you want that wrench back?
I wouldn't want to lose it.
How many questions do you have for him that would garner us very specific answers? And what information
I still had all those bolts.
would you like to gain from this interaction?
I want to figure out how to keep those people safe. And I want to figure out how to take this mayor down. But those aren't really specific. I understand that. Where should we start?
I have no idea. This is kind of as far as I thought I was gonna get.
What were you going to tell me to do next?
I have some ideas.
So you take the wrench and you just...
No. After that.
Well, you're very small, and you like to cause mischief.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got these jars that I need to get into mischief places, but I can't take them there unless someone brings them there. And
Mr. Parks, you are not coercing this child into arson.
I would never coerce anyone into arson.
You are, in fact, coercing someone into arson. You are not doing that.
Shush, where are the jars now?
Are you offering to take some of the jars?
I'm just asking you where the jars are.
Well, then I don't know if I'm going to tell you. There's a quid pro quo here, Mr. Spitz.
Quid pro quo is also...
I only speak Pig Latin.
Says,
That's a dangerous thing to say. We're gonna have to do the next 3 hours in Pig Latin because Spitz ripped that one out.
I don't speak the real stuff.
It's merely a favor for a favor. So I can tell you where the jars are if you promise me that you will take the jars to where I need them to go.
I don't promise nobody
That's
nothing.
sort of a self-serving favor. That doesn't really help Spitz at all. Seems like, and you guys are kind of in debt to Spitz already.
Well, that's
I'm owed a big one.
not
Exact
by me.
words.
Not by, I mean, it was, sure the Ferris wheel was an inconvenience, but I think you'll find that not enough of one for me to owe you any kind of nameable favor.
I
Harry
think
did
he's lying through
promise
his teeth about that.
Mhm.
a favor.
I think he's lying through his teeth about that not being a big one, or at least Spitz does. And I'm gonna roll psychology for the 10% chance that I actually make it.
Sure.
Don't.
Someday, someday.
Someday.
Regardless of whether or not you think you owe Spitz a favor, Harry does. I understand
for
that
Harry.
that's not you. But essentially what I'm saying is, until Harry fulfills his end of the bargain, Spitz isn't really in a position to be taking any offers of employment.
You could have multiple employers. It's the gig economy nowadays.
1893.
Careful where you're pointing that thing, kids. You're
think
dangerous.
I grew
Mr.
up
Park.
in a rundown old sack full of nuns. And they said a lot of words at me a lot of times. There's only one set of them that ever really stuck in my brainium. It's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. I'm gonna grab the poker.
Oh, I thought
Oh my god!
it was gonna be me.
I
Grab
throw Phineas.
the poker for Phineas and yeet it.
God. Give me a.
This was Spitz's boring conversation anyway. Back.
Next dialogue button. Next dialogue button.
You can. Yes, so this is gonna be an opposed roll. God, this is a surprise. This is absolutely a surprise. So.
Fighting? I
Yeah, so
assume?
give me a brawl here.
Oh my god. Okay.
Um.
Come on, baby. Nope. Nope.
Okay. So you failed that one.
Yeah. Can I?
Wait. So what did you roll?
At 80.
80. Okay. So he's gonna attempt to dodge.
He is stuck in this. There's only so far he
67.
can
Yeah.
dodge.
Like he's not super spry. I would say yeah. So he is. Yeah. He's failed this roll as well, and then you attack. Dodge. Yeah. So in ties, he's able to dodge. So he kind of turns back, and the poker passes through the table, through the circle, and clatters on the floor on the opposite side of the trap.
Where we are?
Yeah.
I pick up the poker.
It says, that could have gone incredibly badly for me.
Yeah, I know.
You're not exactly in a bargaining position here, Mr. Parks.
What do you want?
Mr. Parks, I believe we have some common ground, actually.
Mr.
I'm still behind the counter. I'm not.
He's like calling him.
Is that Mr. Wheel?
Mr. Parks, do you mind telling the council your thoughts on Mayor Harrison?
The council?
The assembled
Is this
us.
man collectively
Phineas, can you
together?
just come out here,
Not
please?
entirely.
I actually cannot. He's very bright.
Says, yes, wait, one more time?
Yeah, we have reason to believe that your feelings towards a certain Mayor Harrison might not be of the kind variety. Do you care to expound?
He's a slimy, backstabbing politician.
Agreed. Say more.
I'm not sure exactly where he's going with
I
this.
have no idea.
Honestly,
I think
this is...
I think I can pick up some of the pieces from here. Sir, we've been talking to others of your kind, and I think we might have some common aims and some common misgivings about Mr. Harrison.
Yes, slimy politician. He and everything he's created burned to the ground. Good for everyone.
Yes, we have heard that, and I think we've pieced together as well.
Love the first half.
What you've been sending more out with through Jimmy has amounted to some real devastation in the cold storage facility a bit last month and this month as well. I understand what you want to do, and frankly, I agree with it. I think I can speak for us all when we say we agree with the spirit of what you're doing. However,
Let the record stand, we do not necessarily agree with the plan insofar as it involves the burning of the fair.
I said the spirit! We know it's corrupt. We know it's wrong. We know that it is built by politicians who think that they can make the world in their image and the world will somehow form to it. We know that's not right. We know that this has oppressed your people and your kind, and I'm so sorry that it has. The people at the fair who are just here to see the spectacle, they don't know. They don't know about any of this. They don't know what they've walked into. And so while we know it's something that shouldn't be here, that is a wrong against your kind, they shouldn't have to pay for it. Mayor Harrison needs to pay for it, absolutely. The structures that be need to pay for it, absolutely. But the people don't. The innocent people. Do you understand?
Miss Mudd, how exactly do you think it is that I managed to burn down so much of the fair as it is right now?
I believe you coerced innocent people and used your power to overwhelm them and make them do things they...
It also doesn't take much when the refrigerators are spouting ammonia. Sorry, not helpful.
That too.
I may be powerful in my community and wield a certain amount of respect, but do you think that I could coerce an entire population, an entire community into risking their lives if there were not an already an aura of righteous fury? It is not hard to get people to do what you want when they need to do what you want in order to survive. And it's all very well and good for you to sit there saying, oh, we love what you're trying to do, but just you need to do it a little bit nicer, kinder. When my community very well cannot wait. And it's all well and good to not want to burn the fair down, but frankly, we sort of need to burn the fair down. And just saying, well, it's inconvenient, or people might die, doesn't exactly help the people who are already dying. And frankly, if people come to this fair willing to ride these poison around our neighborhoods, we are perfectly in our right to defend ourselves. And what should we do then, if not defend ourselves?
Did you burn down Chicago last time?
Well,
I'm just wondering.
We were, Phineas actually was given something that I think you might recognize by some ladies at the fair.
Just kind of pop up onto the counter.
He says, I recognize that yarn. Look, grandmother's going to meddle. Grandmother's, kind of on all sides of the family, right? They don't choose sides. Look, Chicago was gonna burn down eventually, some point or the other. Sometimes you gotta take advantage of business opportunity.
So you burned it down last time. Sorry, I'm just collecting my thoughts again. I got distracted by that thing in the middle.
Are you pointing to me? Do you mind the thing in the middle?
I'm like, tangent. Thanks, Phineas. So, burning down Chicago last time, do you think that helped Mayor Harrison get elected on this, like, idea of hope and promises that he was making? Or do you think that hindered the 5 non-consecutive times that he won the mayoral election?
I think in any disaster, people need strong leaders and for people to guide them. And, you know, at one point Harrison seemed like he was going to both do that for Chicago and possibly do that for some of the more invisible members of Chicago, some of the Fae as well.
So he bamboozled you too.
As much as it pains me to admit it. This child's really the worst.
Or the best.
I think this child understands much more than many of us ever could. I understand. I understand where you're coming from, and I understand your frustration and your disillusionment, and I understand where you're coming through and wanting to burn it down all over again, but who's to say history won't repeat itself?
Yeah, how great did that work out for you last time?
Pretty.
You hear Phineas say pretty well, and he's like,
Well,
as the gentleman says,
we're finding ourselves here 20 years later.
I'm not the one who locked me in a trap in a tawdry, back alley magic shop.
I would
Right.
like to pick something up and throw it at his head.
What are you throwing?
I don't know, just something on the counter. So that was rude.
Give me a luck check for it being made of metal.
No.
It's a crystal. Yeah, it's a crystal.
It's a piece of amethyst.
Okay. Yep, I'm gonna roll dodge. 66, so that fails. Did you succeed your throw?
Oh,
Give me a strength check.
that is the exact same number. I did not know.
He ducks again. He says, a crystal ball shatters behind him, like sort of at your feet. It's like, all right, can we control this child? Like, I am at the point of rescinding my offer of employment, considering any deal between us null and void.
Oh no!
What a nightmare.
Mr. Parks, you can't burn down the Chicago World's Fair and kill hundreds of thousands of people.
Give me a better option, because I'm definitely going to do part A.
Okay, now maybe... I know I'm just a kid, but maybe I'm missing something here. But, like, you burned down the city 20 years ago.
The city burned down 20 years ago, and it was a very good thing for me.
Okay. But now you're right back in a position where you gotta burn it down again.
It is my kind of lifestyle, yeah.
It just seems like burning it down not proving too effective.
It worked the last time.
But, like, did it? Because now you have to do it again.
Sort of my whole deal.
Like, it's cute that you think that, but...
What do you think a phoenix does, Maura?
Mr. Parks,
Certainly not learn from history. Do you not remember past lifetimes? Is that not a thing for you?
The burning things down and rising from the ashes, sort of non-negotiable.
Does it hurt to burn and die?
It does. It's excruciating every time.
So you can
good.
remember it. I
Common
write that
ground.
down.
For us also. There is a salient difference, Mr. Parks, in that we don't come back. So you can understand how we might have a vested interest in the non-occurrence of that event.
I don't think sympathy is the road here. I think we need to start negotiating similar to union.
A language.
We're getting there. We're
leaders.
getting there. Fire is pain and death. For you, that pain and death is followed by rebirth. For us, not so. So the starting point for this negotiation, seeing as you're in the circle of salt, needs to be the avoidance of said pain and death for all parties. And we can work from there. So, Mr. Parks, what do you desire?
I desire a big fire. First off, just a big fire. Just for me, a big fire. We'll start there.
And I take it from this request that the greatest refrigerator on Earth fire tragedy was not enough of a fire.
I think you'll find that my tastes have expanded greatly in the past 20 years. At a little bit of a higher bar. In addition, it's not so much that just a fire. It's that certain members of my constituency and my general support are sort of requisite on my personal promise to alleviate much of the suffering in this city and community from my people, specifically caused by much of the new construction, which has leveled their homes, and then also certain railroad policies that have been put in place where iron and stone have been put in between communities so that no one may cross, and that families have been separated and torn asunder to suffer in sickness and isolation. And I've promised to deal with that. And this was a 2 birds with 1 stone, if you'll pardon the metaphor, situation. And I find myself unable to not try to fulfill those requests and, explicit personal promises.
There's no world in which we let you out of this circle without a promise that Chicago doesn't burn down. I know that's sort of like a catch-22 situation.
Once Chicago
term
is
not
burned,
coined yet.
Don't you still not have homes?
Well, no, I'm not trying to burn all of Chicago down. Just the fair. To be clear here. It was great. I had a good time. But you can't burn down your home completely twice in a row and either maintain social credibility and also have a home to go back to. As much as many of the people of Chicago have disappointed us in the past, we are connected to them and them to us. And there's a certain amount of we can't. What is a banshee without someone's death to wail for? Think of all the banshees.
In a way, you're sort of like Mayor Harrison for your own people. Yes?
I deeply resent that comparison.
It's true, nonetheless. You've made your promises. We understand that. But like any politician, not every promise can be delivered upon.
This one is sort of a non-negotiable. It's kind of gotta. I don't want to die horribly being turned inside out by the weight of my own, word being twisted against me.
That might have to be the situation.
Oh, can we avoid that? What?
Can we?
I would surely like to hope so.
Would you like to add?
Is there
What would you like to offer in
in
exchange for us not making you renege on your promises? Because right now, all we want is for the fair not to burn down.
Mm-hmm.
And that is currently the only condition under which you can leave this bubble.
Do you care if the fair burns down or all the people don't die? Could the fair still burn as long as no one died?
That would be
difficult.
More of interest.
And no animals either.
No, of course not. Never the animals.
Never the animals.
Because
more.
Understand that I've promised many people who have assisted me with my various plans that I would alleviate a lot of the immediate tensions and problems. Because if the fair burns down, much of the railroad will burn with it, and many people who've been trapped by the quick construction will be able to move to be with their families, to be out of the area, or to regrow into the burned out park areas that the fair itself is located on.
Here's a question. So what you're majorly concerned about here in the immediacy is barriers, not being able to move, people not being able to be with their loved ones.
That is the promise I cannot renege on. Personally, I would also like a big fire.
Of course.
The skin does not keep itself youthful without some peel.
So you didn't promise the fire. You promised the result, what you think will be the result of the fire.
And I think those are results that we agree with.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Parks, I have a proposal.
Now, from a certain point of view, one could maybe, perhaps, with some mental gymnastics and effort, come to that similar conclusion.
Means yes.
Yeah. Oh, can I roll psychology to know if that means yes?
You can roll intelligence.
Okay. Yeah, that's best.
That does indeed mean yes.
Okay.
Mr. Parks, I have a proposal. Since you are mostly concerned with the barriers that you're experiencing with these railroads, who's to say that there couldn't be damage done to the railroads that would allow your kind to cross safely while not injuring anybody, so that people can freely move about as they need to. And then, in a couple months, when the fair is over and the fairgrounds have been vacated, then the time is then to burn it all down, to ensure that nobody gets hurt.
I think that if you could guarantee this, that if I could feel that my bond has been released, then I could promise this, but I'm physically incapable of agreeing to that until I'm not...
I get that.
Yeah, I'm sort of under other contracts. Oh, I'm getting notes passed about me now.
I'm gonna say some words, and I think they could move us towards common ground. The city of Chicago needs about 6 months for the World's Fair to be economically viable. If the city of Chicago does not achieve economic viability via the World's Fair, any civic projects such as an elevated railroad line become unfeasible. What the city of Chicago and you, Mr. Parks, need is the economic resources to elevate rail lines, and therefore a successful World's Fair for at least the 6 months, and a new mayor. Do those 3 points sound like common interests to both parties? Those 3 points, to recapitulate, being new mayor, elevated rail line, enough money to make points 2 and 3 happen.
Seems like a lot of pretty promises, Mr. Wheel.
Subpoint 1 being the fair exists for 6 more months.
It says, I'm hearing you. I feel like the rest of my community who's been trapped for the past 3 may not quite see eye to eye with that.
What if we could, if we, personally, depose the mayor, you put into power whoever we choose, under the condition that that person would then be beholden to the wishes of the community. Preferably someone in the community or adjacent, that way they can be held accountable for those deals.
I certainly like the direction you're talking.
To be clear, the quid for the quo here is 6 more months of purgatory for your community in exchange for mayorhood in perpetuity of someone assured to have the best interests of said community at heart. It's a classic marshmallow problem, Mr. Parks. 1 marshmallow now, or infinite marshmallows in 6 months.
And we can make the mayor thing happen as quick. I don't know if we can make it happen.
There are quids and quos to be worked out there as well.
The mayor thing, we depose the mayor immediately, as immediately as is humanly
with extreme
possible.
prejudice.
And perhaps that would show you that we are good for our promise.
I think
or you can
toppling...
take getting out of the circle as us being good on our promise.
I said, I can say that toppling a crooked man from his pedestal is within the realm of your possibility. I do wonder how you intend to install a sympathetic mayor to a democratic position, given his, batch of loyal recruits behind him.
That's your end of the deal here. We let you out of the circle. We depose the mayor. You put the new mayor into power.
This is America. You think an election can't be rigged?
The face of a few weeks ago would not have admitted this ever, but yeah, democracy never really worked.
Marion kind of looks over at everybody. I think we may have someone in mind.
Mr. Park, just spit-eyeing here.
He agrees first.
Who, if you were at this moment in time to appoint someone to a mayoral position, who you think might best balance the needs of humanity with the desires of the Fae, who do you know that spans those two worlds?
Oh, myself,
and
of
holds
course.
that balance?
Myself,
Yeah, he's
of course.
not going to agree with
You,
that
sir, are a Fae. Keep talking. Just get the juices flowing.
Oh,
I'm loving this new Phineas.
Who else might be, first of all, eligible for a gubernatorial election? Not gubernatorial election, I just wanted to say that word. A mayoral election, which I believe requires, if not being human, at least having the documentation such as a social security number and the other necessities. Really?
No,
Really?
No, they invented that shit in like the 50s.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrible.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Proper human documentation, a bloodline. These are things people care about
have a
when it comes to
bloodline?
rigging
Of yourself.
democracy.
It counts.
Prove
Not
it.
to humans, I'm afraid.
Point being,
Spitz holds out a knife and says, "Prove it."
as we dig deep and look for common ground, who in the Fae community might have the proper documentation and perhaps have been living long enough as a human to be eligible for this sort of democratic election necessary? Anyone coming to mind?
I mean, Phineas, most of our agents are not exactly chosen for their social repute, more of their grudging admittance to the human world. I sense you're leading somewhere with a name here.
Indeed. And on that theme of, being thrust into a situation, perhaps of certain death, and then much like a phoenix, rising from those ashes, and finding a new and novel strength, I believe that there is a member we've been acquainted with in your own community who was thrust out of the Fae world, and has spent the majority of their life trying to achieve common ground between the two communities and find perhaps the sort of equity, including most notably civil engineering projects such as an elevated railroad and railing against the mayor, and a good amount of media training that might be used to kind of sway a civil election in the ways necessary to ensure election. I do refer to Mr. Gas was my father, call me Prender.
I hate that makes sense.
And you have to admit, sir, it makes a fantastic story.
It makes... Oh, I hate that. I hate that deeply.
I am with you. He seems a
that
little
actually
nervous
about
and
a lot
skittish.
of things I've said, most of which are right.
But he's right.
It's...
And you have to admit that Prendergast wouldn't be that difficult to control.
Oh, no, you'd offer him anything. He would do anything to be welcomed back. Sort of. We have to do something about the members of the community trapped now. 6 months is too long to waste away with iron.
I agree.
Yes.
That's
All right, so-
more of like a...
And I do require a fire.
I got a pitch.
I need a big fire. At some point, soonish. Big fire.
Of course.
Pitch.
I already had like 3,
Spitz
but okay.
pitch.
Pitch. So, all right, just for outside, the track runs where exactly?
This is a railroad. This is the internal railroad. This railroad runs that way a bit. There's a railroad that runs here at this corner.
There's no railroad at all here.
No.
That's
So-
Lake Michigan.
This is Lake
Oh,
Michigan.
right. Got it. Right.
Yeah,
okay.
this is it's an aesthetic choice, but this is all blue. This is a pier that
and
goes
this,
off.
that diagonal bit, that's also a railroad?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How many Fae do you need to get out of the triangle?
I'd high hundreds, low thousand.
That's a little more than I thought.
There's a lot. There's a reason they were willing to help me with, perhaps a slightly excessive funeral pyre.
All right, now listen here. One time, they used to have these doors that they would with the big locks at the nunnery, and sometimes when we did things that the nuns didn't like, we'd have to stay behind the doors. And so one day, I staged a bit of a jailbreak. See, turns out, if you have 2 wrenches, you can do this thing where you stick one into one part of the lock and then one into the side against it, and you apply the right kind of force, and it pops right off. And so long as everyone's quiet and moves single file in the dead of night, no one's really gonna notice. Now let's say we employ some further wrench use to create a path through the railroad, so that anyone who needs to get out of the triangle, we can kind of just quietly lead through the over the rail in the dead of night.
I think Spitz is onto something.
If
Is-
I... Sorry,
What?
I thought you were done.
Be easy to repair in the morning, but by then, everyone who needs to be out is already out.
Or
I'm assuming they want more of a free range situation.
That would be ideal, yes.
we could use this, and Mayor Harrison's been pretty lax on railroad safety. It seems like it's not something he really cares much about, and it wouldn't be that surprising if the railroads around your area suddenly fell into disrepair. There could be some free passage if we can have protection and be able to freely tamper with the railroads in a way that they are unusable.
So railroad tracks aren't actually connected. There's a gap in between them. And if you burn all the railroad ties underneath them, they will collapse and leave enough of a gap. So it's actually pretty easy to break
Right.
enough of a rail to pick your way across.
We can definitely arrange temporary doors where we move railroad tracks,
Mm-hmm.
Or burn them.
areas of them, controlled fires that then get blamed on the mayor. We can definitely do that. The elevated train situation is going to have to wait until 6 months of the fair, because that's where the money is going to come from
In order to build them.
in order to build them.
So
So do we have
I think
an
we're-
agreement?
I think this is a strong initial argument. I would just point out the just addendum. People leave. Fair is empty. Fair is gone. Can we then burn it down?
Personally, I
I'm
don't
not
see why
making
not.
that part of our agreement.
But you won't stop me. It's okay if I go burn it down, or someone were to.
If no one is present.
No lives lost. Fair burns down. No animals lost.
If a person, human, fae, if a life is lost, human, fae, animal, or otherwise,
plants, fine.
plants can be
Plants
replanted.
are
They're not
fine.
sentient. It's fine.
Are they sentient? Are they? Never mind. This, I think the
Weeds.
initial
Getting in the
initial's
weeds.
fine. Literally.
If that happens, the universe will turn you inside out. That's the deal.
So breach of contract.
Correct.
You gotta stop
Phineas
teaching
taught
him
me those
words. Gotta stop teaching him words.
Phineas, write down all of our stipulations. He's gonna sign it human style.
Well, in summary,
Better write quickly, Mr. Wheel.
for the next 6 months, starting from today, I'll skip to this, but I'm not doing it. A series of controlled burns, always started or tied to events occurring on fairgrounds in buildings designed by the event coordinators that the mayor, as of today, said weren't at all involved in the fires. Controlled burns, no lives, fae, human, or otherwise lost, that are always tied to both egress of the ferries, including railroad burnings, and to the fair itself. Starting now, under the vicious leadership and muckraking of reporter Mudd, Prendergast begins running every paper possible on how the mayor is covering up the rampant lack of fire safety, and on how ground-based rail transport is both a recurring problem exacerbated by the lack of fire safety standards, and is infrastructurally unsound and unsustainable given the constant necessity of maintenance because it keeps burning down. The elevated train, on the other hand, will run smoothly for the next 6 months. All of this also can be built for Prendergast's campaign, which he will design on 2 tenets: elevated rail, fire safety. At the end of the 6 months, after Prendergast makes a series of planned predictions published by reporter Mudd about how the deaf ears that these fire safety concerns have fallen on can only be precursors to calamity. And again, under the stipulation that no lives, human, fey, or otherwise, will be lost, perhaps a politically oriented conflagration might be warranted.
Amendment A. So, these controlled burnings, if they do not result in fey doors being able to be opened, you will either find a way to let my community pass freely if it's not burning things down, or if you can't find that, then you will indeed burn the whole fair down.
The
Us
commitment
personally?
lies solely with Ms. Brady on ensuring fey egress as promised, following controlled burns to be negotiated between parties Ms. Bradley for can transport and deputized Harry and Jimmy for location and timing of burns as necessary.
They don't always have to be burns either. If anyone needs passage, I will help them
But if you
within my means.
But if you are to fail, then you will burn down the fair.
Yeah, I'll burn down the fair.
Great, agreed.
Best not fail.
Can I sign?
Oh, I didn't say when I'd burn down the fair. I said if I fail, I will burn down the fair at
Yeah.
some point.
Stipulation
Past
to that.
My failure.
You and any other fey in under your employment or social sphere or in any other way you have exerted power upon may not make actions intentionally increasing the difficulty of Ms. Brady's quest to increase egress.
Given
and that's
that I'm
one
trying
of
to
like
help you.
the next 17 amendments that Phineas will try to think his way through. Can I make a law rule
Yeah,
now?
I think that's
and,
a good
like,
idea. Yeah.
Just gonna basically hash this
A
out.
big fire at the end, though. That's the other thing.
I make a hard version of that law roll.
Incredible. Yeah, you, between the three of you, like, you've kind of hashed out enough of a common ground that there's nothing you're actually trying to trick each other into.
Mhm.
It's just a question of getting the best deal possible.
Yeah.
And, Phineas, you're shining here. This is what you were born to do.
I am signing into effect a contract allowing arson for the next 6 months with a big celebratory one at the end. This is the opposite of what I came here on a train to stop the fire. I'm leaving having endorsed no train, all fire. And I can all see, no unsee. Like,
Retraction. You guys see Phineas doing, like, this is what Phineas is born to do.
Oh, fully.
Absolutely.
I'm like, he's really shining. Didn't think he was gonna be the hero of today. This is great.
Yeah, the internal conflict is real.
Spitz has had
What are you really meant to
little
be
but
doing?
contempt for Phineas this whole time, but today it's been like, oh shit.
Yeah, so you hash out the contract, you promise to, by pretty much any means necessary, get the Fae out of their traps and keep those roads relatively open for the next 6 months, while trying to discredit the mayor and get Pendergast and or some sort similarly sympathetic person elected mayor to keep this from happening as much as possible in the future. And then at some point, you will burn the fair down. And
Or allow Mr. Parks to do so.
Should she fail in her agreement in the contract, then
she will burn the fair down at some point.
Yes.
And then also, Mr. Parks has been promised a big fire relatively soon after.
Attend should I fail, he may attend my fair burning.
that would be
No,
fair.
he would definitely put it in the contract, like, you did promise him within the next year a big fire somewhere nearby in Chicago.
I'll figure it out.
You know what happens within the next year?
No, we don't, because we live in this year. I mean, you might, but that's...
The 4th of July.
That's what I was thinking. Is fireworks over the Michigan.
Big fire.
Yeah, so you,
The fireworks invented next year or something?
Fireworks were invented in like
ages.
yeah, in like
1000
800 AD.
AD.
Yeah, 1000 AD by the Chinese.
I thought we had social security numbers.
Yeah, so you hash this out. Yeah, honestly, like, you're gonna take care of the problem. If you don't, he gets a fire. He thought this was gonna go great, and then he thought it was gonna go really badly, and it's back up to going pretty okay.
And he's expressly forbidden from interfering with her attempts to help.
I mean, if he does nothing, she's probably gonna fail, and he gets the fair burned down, so he thinks he's doing okay.
Yeah,
And I will absolutely allow you to have that time trickery, because I didn't catch it, which means he didn't.
Miss Brady, it does strike me that the lives and livelihoods of about 100,000 people now rest squarely in your ability to perform some kind of mundane chores for the next 6 months without fail.
I've been performing a lot of mundane chores for the last 6 months without fail.
Cool, if you're happy, I'm happy. The part of Phineas that worries about things has been compartmentalized and squashed deep down, and at some point he'll emerge and that'll be a problem, but we're forging ahead.
And as far as Mora sees it, like, she is helping this community, and she's okay with helping the people who are getting hurt in this community, especially when it doesn't directly affect her. And some of them might feel grateful and want to patronize her establishment or give her little treats. Like, she's pretty okay with helping the little guy because the little guy has helped her out a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we have a moral duty to help each other. It's just purely transactional.
She's okay. Like, she wants to help them too, but she's like definitely... all of her worries about being taken advantage of are assuaged by
Absolutely.
that.
It is tricky to make a deal with the Fae. Yeah, you hash that out. Phineas creates a beautifully penned, slightly insane document. Just, what happens every time you'd have to write Fae? Are you just all in, or are you like...
Oh, no,
But-
it's just parties A and B. It's us being parties A, party B, spokesperson, Mr. Mr. Samuel Parks, and
of
then
the community.
Yes,
And
Mr.
then,
S.
yeah,
Parks.
Community B, who's, Community B residing within the bounds of these 3 cross streets, their intersections, and the resultant hypotenuse, and then, like, it's all in those terms.
Incredible. He says, all right, I believe we have an accord. It seems handshake, signature. I can't go over there. You understand.
No, I was waiting for him to bring it to you. I don't have it, so.
I have no part in this deal. I think it's the named named agents of Community A are Ms. Mudd in terms of the PR campaign and election, and Ms. Brady. Is there anything that Spitz and I need to do as part of the contract?
I would be more comfortable if you were not named parties, because they're a loose cannon and you are unreliable.
I too am comfortable not being a named party.
I would like to make an addendum before we sign, if possible. We need to clear Mr. Wheel's name. And I can do my best writing in the paper, but we need to be able to tell people something.
I do.
I mean, there was faulty wiring and some very unsafe fire practices, and who knows what happened with the wheel.
Right.
I'm sorry, what exactly are you hoping to have me go to court to testify that I stuffed some very pissed off brownies in a jar and then someone brought them inside like an idiot and then accidentally released them loose to fiddle with the wiring of several massive refrigerators?
No, I don't think we're asking for that.
How did brownies start a fire?
They got into the wiring and they started to eat it.
Brownies are the name of a small creature that if you feed it, it'll help you clean your house and such, and if you shove it in a jar, it'll start to wreak havoc.
An intelligence check to know that that's what I saw.
Yeah.
Can we have brownies though?
The food?
You'd like them.
I will make you brownies.
It's the best day ever.
Fun fact, brownies
Brownies
were
were
invented
invented
at this fair!
Yeah, Yeah, that's where they first debuted.
Huge.
I
Incredible.
will buy you brownies at the nearest truck. I hear they're amazing.
Me too. I've also heard they're amazing.
I do think my name will clear itself when I go back to New York, am almost certainly taken into custody, and continue to rail against the fact that this has nothing to do with me and everything to do with questionable safety practices that assuredly come from the top and the mayor down. And when fires continue to happen, despite me being states away, railing
In
against
custody.
the mayor, things will look increasingly good for me and increasingly bad for him.
I have no doubt. I just also want to ensure that from your end, if you are asked or any member of your community is asked about Mr. Wheel's involvement, that there will be assurances of protection.
Well, I mean, at this point, it's hard for us to tell the truth about his involvement, but we can certainly swear that he had nothing to do with things he's currently being accused of.
That's all we ask.
Very agreeable terms.
I really doubt they're gonna accuse you of anything involved in this bullshit.
There are certainly a few among us who can pass muster in a court of law. Some of us. So if that ever comes to pass, we'll see what we can do.
You all right with this?
I'm all right with this.
All right.
Sounds good to me.
You pass it over the salting sign? Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of gives a little ripple as it goes through. He signs it in big looping letters, and as you pass it back through the circle, his signature lights up with a big S Parks as it goes through. And
Immediately, making very good on my promise.
Mhm.
Start kicking salt lime. Or no, there's a rug under. I assume there's like a rug under it, so I like go like whoosh and like
Too late.
a lot of the salt's all over the place. I don't
Too
know.
late
If
to
that's
ensure
better.
that he won't immediately just burn us out of spite.
He literally can't. It's in the contract.
Is it okay?
you would have put some
Yeah,
personal
that's- I was
protections for
like-
sure. Yeah, the salt goes
How
everywhere.
am I supposed to help
Spitz
him
is licking
if I'm
salt
dead?
off of his face.
Salt goes everywhere. There's a kind of a boom of air. You can just feel like hot air rushing out, having been trapped for several hours. A dry desert heat. Sort of steps and like straightens his jacket. Grabs his cane and says, "Well, we'll see how this turns out." Tips his hat. Walks out the door.
Mr. Parks, it's truly been an honor.
Are you looking at him now? Are
Yeah,
you still
yeah,
behind the game?
No, I mean, at some point in the past, I assume like hours it took us to write this, I did eventually creep out from behind the cabinet.
Yeah, as you've been negotiating, he like tones down the brightness.
Yeah.
He's a little like he's just very bright.
Appreciate it.
And he walks out the door, which chimes, leaving you four to figure out how to commit some acts of resistance and freedom to get some of these people out of here and to elect Prendergast as mayor as well as topple a corrupt mayor. So we cut to a couple of weeks after where there's been some improvements in figuring out how to get through the rails. What have you guys been up to? What has Phineas gone home to New York?
I will go home to New York, but first, at some point I have to resolve the fact that I came here on a train intending to stop the fires from happening, and left having signed into effect a deal with a powerful entity to both break the trains and burn more things. And this is okay if and only if I've, in doing so, saved some lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I need a peek into my future before I can leave. Is that
You
something
want
that
me
I
to
can
read
have
your
happen?
cards?
Is that okay before I leave?
Do you want me to?
I very much, Miss Brady, would love to have a card reading.
That'll be a nickel.
Can you load me a nickel? I can see things that
Yeah,
I
that
couldn't
doesn't go
always
away.
see.
No, that's always
doesn't
staying.
go away.
Yes.
These are just normal cards, though.
Unless Mora is going to do something to them to make them a little spicy, figure out what's happening in your actual future.
Well, I mean,
Magic points 1 per hour is the regen. It's just the sanity.
it's just gonna take a lot longer. It's gonna take like an hour. Is that okay?
Unfortunately, whether I want to or not, if there isn't magic imbued in the cards, and if the prediction for my future is in fact Bungus, I will know because I can see Bungus. So I think it has to be magic. Or you...
Okay.
Of course, you don't have to read my cards, but if
Okay,
you
well, it's
want to
gonna
read
be
my
a
cards,
dime
it's gonna
then.
have to be. Spitz, can I borrow your other nickel?
Don't ask.
I've now taken Spitz's entire life's net worth, because everything I owned was in the wallet that I gave to Mr. Green.
Thank you. I feel really bad about this, so I take a dime out of my pocket and I add it to the pile and I say, "This is gonna take a while, honey. Do you want to go get some brownies for everybody?" And I give him all the money plus I give him 20 cents.
Spitz, this is more sense than Spitz has ever seen at one time in their life.
Higher than she can count.
Yes. Okay.
Spitz is gonna run and go get brownies.
Incredible. Yes, this is at least a day or so after the fair. So if
Yeah.
you haven't turned yourself in, the world is still decrying Phineas B. Wheel. Although there's so much happening in the fair that you have been moved to page 2 almost immediately.
Good. Where I belong.
Yeah, so definitely shuffle those, mix them, turn them around, all that stuff. Get your energy all over them.
Should I be here so that things exist, or should I be here so that things...
You can
also
lay the
exist?
cards out here, but
Got it,
you
got
can
it.
shuffle comfortably.
Marion's also kind of hanging around in the shop. She's actually taken this little apprenticeship a bit more seriously, and just kind of curious to see how Mora.
So
runs her business.
Do I need to roll first intelligence and then mythos again, or was that just for that incredibly difficult spell?
No, so Mythos would be for a spell you didn't have. You have the spell, you have performed this before.
Many times.
So this would just be a power roll to be successful. A regular power roll. And it would cost you the sanity and hit points
Listed on the
the
card,
card. Yeah.
I succeed.
Yep.
That is all of my magic points for the day.
I do appreciate your sacrifice.
Hey, you gave me 10 cents for it.
And then you have roll for
Buddy.
sanity too.
3.
Yeah, just take that. You just take the sanity damage.
So that's what? Is that 1 or is that 2?
Oh,
2.
2. Yeah.
38, still net positive.
Pretty good.
I feel so sane. Okay, now choose a card. Choose 3 cards and lay them 1, 2, 3 that speak to you. That
For past,
catch.
present, and future?
That catch your finger. That seem to stick to you in unnatural ways.
My past is this buried one. My present is this one on top. And my future is this covered one. Oh.
Inverse fortitude.
Marion thinks her head in.
Don't need the true sight to know that this.
That seems
That's
pretty
facts.
fulfilling.
Weakness, pettiness, impotence, and sickness. This represents your past.
I paid 10 cents for this.
This represents where you've come from.
It's just confirming what you already knew.
Marion, please.
I'll be in the kitchen.
There is. Okay. So people get very worried about death, but usually death just means a great change. And I think we can all agree that your life at present has come into some grand change.
Child of the Great Transformers, yeah.
Yes. Time, involuntary change, transformation, also death and destruction. But
I mean, we did get a fair deal of that.
yes, and also you've been transformed and changed involuntarily.
Indeed.
I think we can all agree. As for your future, the inverse fool. I believe he is the first card, no?
0, yeah.
The foolish man. The higher significance of this card suggests that the foolish man's perfect innocence is holding the wolf. Thus, the anger of worldly wisdom is held in check by perfect innocence. Ideas, thought, sensitivity, the flesh, eternal life, spirituality, initiative, folly, and foolishness.
This is
What-
this
what's
is
the
inverse
inverted?
foolish
Oh,
right
shit.
That's a past card.
Oh, shit. Bad decision, indecision, apathy, or hesitation. We can take from this, usually from the future is not definite. It is still in your right to change it. If you approach your life with less hesitation and more action, perhaps a new future will be in your future.
You do this professionally?
It's a little harder because I know you.
Yeah, the cards.
Thank you, Miss Brady.
Don't hesitate. Don't make any,
Phineas B.
avoid
Wheel would
indecision.
never. I should catch my train. It has truly been an honor. Miss
You're
Brady,
welcome anytime.
thank you for your hospitality and for all of the adventures we've had. Ms. Mudd,
You
leave
heading out?
I leave this city in your capable hands. I look forward to the mayoral election. Unfortunately, I will not be voting as a resident of New York, but I also look forward to the headlines that you will write that will include hopefully a little less of my name than the papers at present.
We'll do our best.
Spitz, are you getting back on the train to New York, or are you staying here for a while? Well,
I think I was gonna try to steer clear of trains for a little bit. Went on one and that ended poorly. But I have brownies.
I'll take
At
a
least
brownie,
try one
and
before
then
you
in
go.
trade, I'll give you like a little scrap paper with my address in New York on it. If you ever find yourself back in New York and want to sleep somewhere other than the Central Park Menagerie, you're always welcome. And I hope I'll see you again.
I have to admit something to you. I can't read.
I take it you know the city of New York.
Yeah.
Probably better than I do.
Yeah.
I'll describe the place in Long Island City. If you ever need a home, you can find it there.
Cool. Spitz tucks the card into their pocket.
Yeah, you get the sense that Phineas B. Wheel is known to his neighbors, for better and for worse. That if you went looking for him, you'd be pointed in his direction. Yeah, so you don't have trouble getting back on the train. What happens when you get to New York?
I think I have a day job. I will attempt the next Monday morning that I'm supposed to go into work to show up and investigate the next factory. But I have a suspicion I might see some things that I did not used to see in routine factory inspections.
I think you show up and before you walk in the office and pinned up over your
for a
desk.
second, I'm still wanted for a number of crimes. Back up. I don't get that far. I wasn't acting with indecision. This is a new Phineas. It's a new day. This
ready.
Phineas goes to prison.
Turns himself in immediately.
Yeah. I will report to the New York NYPD and say, hey, so I lost my badge, which is civil property, and for that I apologize, and I totally accept that it will be deducted from my pay. Additionally, I am a wanted man in the state of Illinois, and I have now fled across state lines, and I assure you there's an explanation for all of that, and I would love to provide a written statement.
The man at the counter goes, George?
For the record, my name is Phineas B. Wheel, and you'll probably have to cuff me.
George, we got a live one out here. I don't know what he's done, but it's something. Look, normally they don't come in and just confess, right? Yeah, it's just, he walked right up. It's crazy. It's just okay, sure, any stat's a good stat. So he snaps cuffs over you. And you're escorted to a detective, like a kind of a holding cell. And a detective comes in, many hours later, holding a Chicago Tribune, with your name emblazoned across the front, and goes, so, what's the story here?
Yes, so, as is well documented in my case files, as well as numerous filings that I submit, both to the governing forces and the NYPD here in New York, as well as in Illinois, I've made it kind of a personal mission over my life and career to root out the infrastructural issues, and I can keep talking as long as we need to. I'm not trapped in here with him, he's trapped in here with me. And I will give him the full life story of how I got from here to the Chicago Fair. Basically, I have no real alibi, other than I have a good base of evidence in 2 states that I have been stalwartly against fire, and I have been the harbinger of this fire will probably happen, and I have alibis for all the June fires.
He says that seems mighty convenient, Mr. Wheel, but
I would say tragic, actually, that a conflagration occurred despite my numerous warnings and pleas for change in the infrastructure, but convenient is perhaps another term for it, yes?
Convenient. I mean, I'm glad you've come to the authorities. I guess we're gonna hold you till we figure out if we gotta extradite you to Chicago. So get comfortable.
Oh, never happier than serving the public and clearing names, yeah.
So you get sent to, so not prison, but like county, like a city jail. Yeah. And there are definitely a bunch of interesting characters here. As your cellmate turns to you, and they've just got a like enormous multicolored skin going all the way up, like bright purples and reds and greens, and just like the most crazy twirling eyes. And they say, "Hey, welcome here. Yeah, welcome. What you're in for?" And the cell door closes on Phineas in the New York City jail. And
we might need subtitles for that one.
We pivot back to the 3 remaining conspirators in Chicago. So you now are tasked with enacting out this plan to basically create portals to keep the Fae being able to move around the city until you're able to enact at least some modicum of change. How's that going? What are you guys up to? As well as trying to campaign of taking down the mayor at the same time.
I feel like Spitz is on Team Railroad. Just every night sneaking out like a little hoodlum, getting some bolts.
Absolutely. I think like once every couple days, like at an infrequent interval, Mora is enlisting some help from the like, the tall guy in the trench coat that wasn't Will. Like all the other human familiars basically. And we're just hauling up. We're doing our best. We're burning out the slats under the railroad. We're trying to make it look not humanly done, but nonetheless enact some damage along the railroad.
Yeah. In the instances where it does seem like humans, with the aid of Mr. Pendergast, and what has Marion been writing as well to aid in this?
Yeah, so Marion is usually around the railroad burnings as well, and taking very carefully positioned pictures of like what's happening and kind of like the destruction, and spending a lot of time at the fair as well, talking to pretty much anyone who is still working there, to try and get more and more accounts of negligence and like the mayor's like unwillingness to kind of step in, and kind of crafting the more like fleshed out story of like what happened with like these 2 calamities at the fair, and starting to like build something greater about like the railroads as well. So she has a piece in these like couple weeks since the fair now that she has written up about like the refrigerator fire and about the Ferris wheel, and how it was all due to negligence, and how everyone working there was just completely apathetic, and how the only people who actually came to help in the Ferris wheel disaster were not actually condoned by the fair at all, and were outside of Mayor Harrison's purview. That it was Buffalo Bill, sign of the West, and not of the institution that Harrison had built, who actually came to a child's rescue.
He's fully willing to give whatever testimony you want for,
absolutely.
If he gets a good picture with the hat on the front page.
We get a fantastic picture of him with that on the page.
Yeah, you find it shockingly easy once you're able to find an angle where people are willing to talk about it, because this was such a bad disaster that it's made people who are kind of willing to just kind of go with the flow, re-examine things and be more willing to talk. And when you get that kind of entering angle, it's pretty easy to then find examples where the mayor has put pressure on people and sort of promised one thing and delivered another. And with your ability to not have to be beholden to him or worry about getting future stories, you find a lot of information that's not been covered. And where the railroad stuff can't be blamed on incompetence, you find it just as easy to twist it to the inability of an indefectualness of the mayor to catch whoever is doing these acts of sabotage. And so several weeks on, you find.
So several weeks on, the final draft of this kind of large story is finished. And she has already received a little bit in advance from some of the papers that Prendergast has helped her place the story into. And she's pocketed a little bit of the advance. She's also sending a bit of money back home to Atlanta to Florence. So hopefully that gets there in time. But she has the final draft of the story, is going to Prendergast's office to turn it in and place it in all the papers that we've contacted.
Yeah. He turns out he's a lot less crazy when someone's taking him seriously. And a giant Ferris wheel isn't sending incredibly terrible vibes 3 streets away from his office. Yes, you come in and it's still kind of a mess, but like the organized chaos where every pile is sort of labeled. And he's actually been able to hire a bit of a secretary. And a secretary, clearly also Faye, you've never quite been able to catch how many hands they have, but it does seem like maybe it's more than 2. A lot of
We're
letters.
just moving that fast.
It's hard to tell.
Cool.
A lot of hands going back and forth. And so as you're delivering this Pendergast, have you pitched him running for mayor yet? Does he know that this is happening to him?
I don't think so.
I would not have told him. I don't want to interact with him after embarrassing myself in front of him, and also he just seems kind of like flighty. So I'm just letting you handle all of that.
I think now might be the time.
He says, Miss Mudd, please come in. Oh, we've got 2 chairs now.
Oh, Mr. Prendergast, that's great. Expanding the operation, I see.
We are moving up in the world.
Yes, we are. I am very pleased to present to you the report. It needs a headline still, but I figured you could help me write it.
Miss Mudd, I think this might actually do some good in this town.
I think so too. I think it'll take us in the right direction. It'll take Harrison down a peg for sure, and frankly, it leaves an opening for some new leadership in this town too.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, we've got to find someone who cares about this community and really wants the best for it, and is also going to make sure interests that may not be readily apparent to the voting public are going to be taken into account. I mean, it's going to be a brand new start. I'm thinking malicious mayor must be removed.
We can definitely work with that, absolutely. Maybe something a little bit about, fires and danger and ineptitude as well. But we'll workshop it. But I think it's going to be great. I really think it's going to make some change around here. And
I have full faith in your ability to craft the written word, Miss Mudd.
Of course. And Mr. Prendergast, I was sort of thinking, we, the ones who we came to your office a few weeks ago, well, not long after we came to your office, we had a meeting with Mr. Parks, as you know, and
I've heard something.
Am I here?
Yeah.
Okay.
You were avoiding Mr. Pendergast, right?
I wasn't avoiding him. I just wouldn't go on my own.
Yeah, I was just going.
Okay.
You don't have to be here. It's okay.
It's okay.
More spawns and then despawns in the room.
You said we, they looked at me, I didn't know what was happening.
Sorry. Speaking in the royal we of those friends absent, of course. We made a deal with Mr. Parks that he would keep members of your kind safe and allow for safe passage. You might have seen some of the crossings that have opened up in recent weeks.
I have. It's not perfect, and it's definitely not as much as we need long term. But for now, I think it's keeping everyone sane.
Mm-hmm. And as a part of that deal, he's agreed to leave the fair alone for 6 months so that the fair can reap the economic benefits that we all know it can, and there can be money in the budget in the city for elevated trains, for a way through for your people, and also a safer way of life as well for everyone. And in the absence of Mayor Harrison, because it seems like, well, if people receive what is inside that report, he won't be in office much longer. Someone needs to take his place.
Well, I absolutely agree.
Mm-hmm. And we think it's in our best interest and Mr. Park's best interest if that someone be someone who understands both the Fey world and the mortal world.
Oh, 100%. Very important.
Mm-hmm. And we thought, having been someone who has lived extensively in both worlds, who understands the needs of both and has great ideas for making the city a more equitable place for both groups, that you could fill up that seat.
He stands up, passes out, flat on the ground. After like a couple
Mr.
beats,
Prendergast.
he just...
Okay, we'll get a fainting couch as the next piece of furniture in here.
You think I could do it? I mean, I've had several newspapers reach out to me for interviews and requests. They seem to think I'm sort of have comments and thoughts about this, which is true. I definitely do, but no one usually cares what I say.
I think a lot of people are going to care what you say, especially after this. And we think you would be a good leader. You really care about the city. You care about its people.
I do deeply. Is there no one else? I'll do it, but is there no one else?
You're the best one we thought of. We believe in you.
Somewhat worrying, but if there is no one that will keep the Fae protected, but also Chicago mostly unburnt, then it's my duty to try my best to shoulder that responsibility. I don't think I'm gonna get elected, because that would be crazy.
I don't think it's as crazy as you think.
It's insane. It's not gonna happen, but we'll do our best. I believe that if we take the mayor down...
Mm-hmm. We have an opportunity while this is all coming out, and the mayor's going to be encountering the worst PR mess of his life. And if you and I are on the same page, that won't stop anytime soon. I intend to keep writing stories until he's out of office, and even after, so just to tarnish his legacy a little bit. We have a perfect opening. You campaign on these elevated railroads, you campaign on fire safety, and if and when the fair were to burn up in flames in 6 months, let's say, just perhaps, that could be a perfect opportunity for you to take the stage. You'll have the full support of Mr. Parks and the whole Fae community, and I'm sure the
Wait, the support of Mr. Parks, he thinks, he agrees to this.
He's fully behind you. I have his signature right here on this contract.
Alexi, we're going to need to write way more letters.
More hands.
On board.
More hands.
You can see a cloud of hands appears. Amazing. So, flashing forward a couple of months to the final days of the fair, Marion's campaign of discreditation and articles has been successful beyond wildest dreams. And the M-Mud byline in any of the local papers has started to strike fear in Mayor Harrison's heart every time this happens. And on the eve of the end of the fair, the last night, deep darkness, we see the last disruption of the railroad before the end of the fair. A small, shadowy figure creeps through the railroad. see Spitz grabbing some bolts. And you can see Harry on the other end going, is it open, kid? Okay, you got it? Wow, that's terrifying. That's terrifying. Truly terrifying. Just sort of like a little rabbit like hops across. It's like, whoop, kind of. Do you prefer the man or the rabbit, Spitz? I don't know if you do care.
Kind of like the bunny.
Yeah, all right, fine.
And get a little scritch behind the ears.
Oh, that's good. All right.
But does a little thumpy thing.
Yeah, Tell Noah. Absolutely not. God, Jimmy will never let me hear the end of it. Sorry. How you doing, kid? How's it going?
I mean, it's like, look, usually people get mad at me when I take stuff apart. But so many people are so happy lately whenever I take stuff apart.
It's been going real well, kid. Not gonna lie. You've got a natural talent for destruction and chaos.
Thank you.
Have you thought about what you're gonna do post this? I mean, my understanding from the community is that after, soon that hopefully this won't be an issue.
Yeah.
That it looks like there's vote of no confidence brewing.
Not gonna be many opportunities for destruction soon.
I am trying to avoid it. It's been a long summer.
What were you planning on doing?
Well, Buffalo Bill is heading out. I figure, if hopefully on a horse, they can stick me in a side saddle and just ride alongside the train.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of my goal right now. I know Jimmy's gonna be around here. Gonna go see the wilds. I mean, it seems like we're going to Connecticut right now. This tour's a success. They want to keep the train, so to speak, running. We're happy to drop you back off in New York if you want to go.
Yeah, that'd be nifty. But also maybe I could just keep going with you to Connecticut.
Trial basis?
You got yourself a deal, Bunny, and I shake his little paw.
Amazing. So the end of the fair brings an enormous amount of crowds, and the breaking of that railroad causes just enough inconvenience to call for a no-confidence vote in the mayor, helped along by the incendiary up-and-coming writings of a new candidate, Mr. Pendergast. And it's clear that even if he doesn't make this campaign, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the coming years, as someone who just radiates a kind of almost unsettling amount of sincerity, and it would be off-putting aside from the fact his political predictions of the incompetence are so perfectly predicted in what actually ends up happening in the next couple of weeks. It's very hard for people not to pay attention to him. This, of course, has cleared Phineas's name many months later. And around this time, you are able to walk out a free man. Although you have been in jail for many months. And as the prison guards, as you're leaving, are so glad to be rid of you because you have introduced to the, you have given so much good legal advice to the other inmates, as well as introduced the idea of unionizing. And you wouldn't think that a prison would unionize, but it turns out if you get a whole prison together, they can surprisingly get a lot done with collective action. And you never quite tell if it's a desire to get rid of you, just to have you stop talking, that they'll do what you say, or if it's actually good advice. And that may be where you live the rest of your life, just a little in there. Yeah, so Phineas, you exit prison to seek headlines of fair closing, mayor in disgrace, to exit soon following no confidence vote. So where are you gonna go? Are you walking off into the sunset here?
I think I'm going back to work. I think at the end of the day, all kind of events of the past couple months aside, at least here in the city of New York and Long Island City, The fire safety codes are still not where they should be. There's still children being exploited in factories. And after this whole adventure, I can see only more clearly both overall elements that I couldn't see before, as well as see the injustices and maybe the ways that both on and outside the law I might be able to rectify them best. So I'm with a new vigor and maybe a little less scrutiny of the letter of the law, I'm reporting back to factory inspection duty.
The first time you step on a factory floor, you see not the foreman, but one of the workers, and through your new eyes, you see a large, like, stone man turn to you and say, "Hey, I heard you burned down the last place that didn't follow the fire code. Is that true?"
Let me back up for a second. Were there Fae in prison?
Yeah.
Cool. Could I have spent any of that time like learning what a Fae is?
Absolutely.
Because with all of the perception, I also would love to have gained some knowledge.
Yes, you'd love to
back to my stony friend.
Yeah.
If codes aren't followed, there are consequences. I'm here to ensure that those consequences never have need to arise.
I think he has to
Now.
take a psychology.
Yeah.
Is there anything you might want to tell me about the way this factory is being run that myself or the New York State would be at all concerned about?
He breaks. He tells you everything. He looks in your eyes and he says, "Well, tells you everything." Incredible. As Phineas is off into his new life, where are Marion and... What is Marion doing? Actually, no, sorry, what is Mara doing?
I think she has made some attempts to, like, buy the building that her shop is in so that she can live there, maybe.
Yeah, every time you take down a railroad, you've been... you get, like, coins. You get just, like, it's never very valuable, but these things kind of add up, and it's all just random stuff. Just kind of people dropping trinkets by. But occasionally, you find enough to, like, at least solidly rent out the apartment above you.
Excellent. Oh. Just the one?
Yeah.
Well, I can try to convince them to give Marion a room, too, somewhere else in the building.
Yeah.
Oh, she can buy it.
Oh, this muckraking absolutely pays way more than Witchery does.
Marion helps to buy the
Do I pay you rent then?
Say no. She
I
does.
can pay rent. I've been paying rent on the place.
That feels weird. Okay, maybe she helps with your rent, and she rents her own apartment as well. Next door.
You
in the same building.
Buy the place if you want. It's all up to you.
She's not making that much money. Journalism doesn't pay that well yet.
We definitely pool our resources and try to figure something out. So we can hopefully get Flora here as well.
Yeah, and as the fair ends, Flora comes up on the next train that is not unduly disrupted.
Flora
for short.
Oh, got it. Okay, both.
Flora, yes. To see a lone figure waiting on the train tracks. And she steps off and throws her arms around you.
Says, it's so good to see you.
Oh, Lord, I don't know what you've been up to since I've been gone, but it sounds like you've gotten into too much trouble.
It's good trouble. It's always good trouble.
It's just so good to see you. And there's a very sweet little kiss on the railroad tracks. Incredible. Yeah, so as the mayor is thrown out, there is a brief window of opportunity, and maybe Pendergast will be elected, maybe not, but he will continue to fight for this city, and the people are listening to him now. And you don't know what's going to happen in the future. But one thing we do know, the fair is now closed, and someone has been promised a fire.
I think in the final days before Spitz maybe leaves, Mora definitely offers to them if you want to come. I have to commit some arson, and I think you're maybe the best at destroying things that I've ever seen.
Hell yes.
It'll be a hell of a sight.
I know you're headed out to Connecticut soon, but if the tracks take you this way again, I rented the apartment upstairs, so there's a little bed in the shop if you ever need anything, and I'm sure we could find some trinkets to trade along the way.
All this time, too, Flora has been trying to teach Spitz how to read. She's a school teacher.
I think Spitz has learned the rest of the numbers. But that's pretty much it.
Count to 100 now and write them out.
Yes, Spitz can count to 100. They can write out all of the numbers. But words it's been very difficult to get them to, like, put in the effort to actually learn words.
She is endlessly patient and tries her best.
Spitz is gonna give Mora a hug. 'Cause you're pretty cool for a grown-up.
You're pretty cool for a kid.
Who knows? Could have use of a witch sometime later on.
If you run into any evil wizards, you beat the hell out of them and rob them blind.
Thinking of turning it into a career.
I think you would make a very excellent wizard beater-upper. We say this as we're standing like on the outskirts, like ready to light them up.
Can we have like
Oh,
rented?
you came with us?
Can we have rented a little rowboat so that we can watch the fire go up from like?
Absolutely. They have all sorts of
Yes.
paddle boats here.
So how are we starting the fire?
I figure it's pretty dry and dusty. It might not be too hard. I could fail an electronics repair check.
Spitz starts. You mentioned the electronics. Spitz starts running around, and anything remotely electrical gets immediately met with wrench.
There's a series of gas piping that runs throughout pretty much the whole fair.
There we go.
And
I'm just going through like all the piping.
very effective. And you've been able to reach out to a lot of the fae who's kind of have hung back or were kind of pro-burn the fair down. Lots of those around. And they're able to help clear out the buildings. And you see a couple of very frightened people running, screaming, and saying, "It had too many legs and teeth and just the fuck!" Not staying in there. And you can see the trick of being kind of chased out of the fair as you're going.
I think Mora cuts just before they get on the little paddle boat. She takes her iron scissors on her chatelaine and cuts up some of the wiring, gets that going. She probably has a book of matches here too. She just sort of like strikes one and like tosses it onto like some hay that they stacked up ready, and then dead sprints back to the paddle boat.
There's like it's been laid out like a fuse, a little trail of hay leading into the fair.
Amazing. Yes, you can hear the hiss of the gas ignite, and there's a trail of fire going directly through the fair to the Grand Basin. And as the fair explodes from beginning to end in a cacophony that has not probably been seen in the modern world, you can almost see the statue of Christopher Columbus, like a figure perched on top of it with wings outspread, disappear into the flame. There's so much gas that this place almost vaporizes instantly. And there's a blinding flash of light as the fair burns to the ground. And you successfully burned the fair down.
If we agreed on what the date of this fire will be, Phineas B. Wheel back in New York, he's like in the most public of places with 35 alibis. Was nowhere near this, no connection whatsoever. Haven't thought about Chicago in 6 months.
Yeah, you're in a like you've gone to see a play followed by like a very public dinner with someone.
Yeah. Like signing today's newspaper every chance I get. Like,
absolutely. Yeah. So you see the fire burn. Spitz, you can see Spitz on a train, wind in their hair, off to terrorize parts unknown.
I'm sitting on a horse holding Harry.
A rabbit in your hands, ears twitching in the wind, your ears also twitching just a little bit. New terror has been struck in the heart of the New York City fire and safety. Just, there's something about a man who looks at you and just seems to know in a way that wasn't there before. That makes Phineas's already impeccable record even more detailed and even more
Brandy.
complete. Yeah, what was that?
Thanks, Prendergast. Good spit.
You do live a life of horror. There are some things that are not meant to be seen, but some things must be done in the name of keeping the public safe and secure. Your store thrives. You receive almost more lore bits and pieces than you know what to do with. You've actually started putting like a notebook with like a tearaway message board, so people will stop leaving you messages on things that aren't paper. Potato skins, not great as it turns out for writing.
No.
And there is always more mud and filth and corruption to be discovered in Chicago, of all places. And your ability, and Marion's ability to go between the human world and the Fey world enables her to find and ferret out more of it in the service of both electing fair, responsible leaders and punishing those that don't. All of this, as winter rolls around into spring, new buds and growth start to form in the burned out husk of the fairgrounds. Trees, saplings have started coming up again. There's almost new grass. There is another world in which this fair also burned to the ground, in which Pendergast was not heard, in which concerns were not addressed, and he goes on to shoot the mayor of Chicago, who then allows whose son is then elected and continues the reign of Harrison's further on. But that is not this world, although sometimes some things still need to be burned to the ground. And that's it for Chicago Fae. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for playing, and thank you for watching. We're Twice World Tales. You can find us anywhere tales are purveyed. Check all the descriptions below, and check us out on our Patreon. We have plenty of modules, including ones about Chicago Fae, if you want to play in this world at your table at home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah!
We did it!